Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of eXhuming the X-Files here on the Outpost Unknown YouTube channel. We appreciate you joining us each and every week as we investigate strange phenomenon with our favorite special agents, Mulder and Scully. My name is Matthew. I'm joined once again by Jeremy.
Hey, everybody.
And tonight, we're back into a two-part mythology episode. It seems like every mythology arc now is 2 episodes. We're talking Piper Maru, directed by Rob Bowman, written by Frank Spotnitz and Chris Carter. Jeremy, did you have any memories of this episode?
This was a very important episode for me when I was a kid. Good. Almost all of the episodes were, but as soon as that guy started, or at first they do the top-down shot of the suit, and I didn't remember that, but once they start talking about going underwater, it's like, oh, he's gonna find that guy in the cockpit.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this is that episode. Like, I started getting mega pumped.
Yeah.
Because this particular moment, these 2 episodes kick off an arc that we see throughout the movie that was really, really good. Pretty much all of the best stuff that happens in season 4, season 5, season 6, at least as far as it goes with the aliens and such.
Yep.
But this really, they lean hard into it. They show us more than they did as far as living aliens. Like, they showed us dead aliens at the beginning of the season, or this season, but we haven't seen a lot. And these next couple of episodes, it really gives us what we've all been aching for so long.
Yeah, and so this is part 1 of a 2-part. Next week we'll be talking about the finale of it, Apocrypha, but I think you're 100% right. These 2 episodes are so important to everything that comes later on down the road. And I don't think we really understood that when we were kids, but definitely now, after we've seen all these episodes, we're like, oh shit, we're getting into some shit. So let's talk about that prologue. Let's talk about what happens in this prologue.
So there's a bunch of Frenchies. They're suiting up some guy for a deep sea dive in one of those robotic bell suits. An important note: oxygen should ideally be at 20.8 for deep sea diving in a suit, whatever the fuck that means, because they do a check at the beginning, and I just wanted to know that. It says it's a French diving team, and being in Canada, it makes sense. They had some French speakers that they've failed to employ for 2.5 seasons. They get down there and they start talking about, finally, after 3 months of searching, we finally find this needle in a haystack, and it's a plane. And I remember being a kid being super obsessed with all of these Mustangs that disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. There was 5 of them that were on formation. They get lost in the Bermuda Triangle. And then a CB plane that looks for them gets lost in the Bermuda Triangle. It was a big story when I was a kid. So they're at the bottom of the ocean, and they found a P-51 Mustang. So all right, they're talking about that story? Fuck yeah. The camera goes out while the guy's walking up to this plane, but they still have audio communication to him, and he walks over to the cockpit, and he starts hearing this banging sound from inside the plane. Yeah. This plane has been there since World War II.
As I was watching this morning, I actually got goosebumps.
Oh, yeah.
When the banging starts happening, I got goosebumps.
And then he looks through the cockpit window, and there's this World War II era pilot just banging, help me, let me out. They zoom into this eye, or they zoom in on the pilot's eyes, and while I remember as a child that effect looking so sick, there's this cloudiness, this black cloudiness that kind of washes over his eyeballs like there's a black oil, and they call it the black oil throughout this show. But I remember it looking so great as a kid, and watching it as an adult, it's like, oh, here it comes, oh, that kind of sucked.
Well, effects were different back then. They were definitely different back in 1995 or whenever this came out. I love this prologue. This is one of those prologues that sticks with you forever when you watch it. Just the idea that there's somebody alive at the bottom of this ocean in this cockpit. It's such a cool concept, and it immediately hooks you in like, what in the hell is going on? Then you see the black oil in the eyes, and you're like, oh my god, is this alien stuff? Is this a monster? Like, what is going on? I love like there. So this prologue has two things. It has one thing I hate and one thing that I love. People who know me know that I'm terrified of ticks. I'm just deathly terrified of ticks. It's my fear. But there's a second fear that very few people know that I have, and I have a very huge fear of the deep ocean. So I can be on top of the ocean, I'm fine. You put me on a boat, I can swim in the ocean, that's fine. I have no problem. But the idea of the deep ocean and being so far down in that dark, sort of highly pressurized thing with like, creatures that are unknowable, it just freaks me out, and I start getting sweaty and twitchy like the dude in the last episode that we watched. And just that diver going down there and stuff, I was just like, oh god. So it really gets me. But I also love fucking like World War II era pinup art on airplanes. I love pinup girls in general, but just that kind of stuff. It's just this had a little bit of everything. It had stuff that I was scared of. It had stuff that I loved. It had stuff I was creeped out by. It was just such a cool concept. Loved it. Loved this prologue.
It they've hit a stride with these alien episodes, and it pretty much began at the beginning of this season or the end of the last season with the cliffhanger. The beginning of this season, like almost, I don't remember any of these UFO government conspiracy episodes that just don't have banger pre-title screens. Like they
Yeah.
always just they leave you dying to see what else happens in the episode.
Yeah.
So the episode begins with Scully walking down a hallway, and she suddenly gets pulled into Skinner's office, where Skinner dismisses his secretary, like, "Okay, the fuck is this about?" But he has something sad to tell her. He says that they're going to put what do you call that? When not they don't cold case a file, but when they're done investigating or they've run out of leads, what do they do?
Yeah. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of the exact term. It's like they're not closing it forever, but essentially it's on hiatus. Like there's no more time, energy, and resources that can be spent on it because there's no leads. They got to start focusing on other stuff, so they kind of just pause and they set it on a shelf until something new comes in.
And he tells her, and he's very professional about it. He's just like, "This is what they're doing with your sister's murder case. I am going to review all of the stuff to make 100% sure that this isn't just being passed over or purposefully shut down. Just in case, if there's anything that they can look at, I will make sure that I put the weight of my office behind it to make sure it continues being investigated. But I needed you to know." And Scully has this great. I wish I had written all of it, but it was so much words.
Oh
This
yeah,
great rant about, the FBI has the best tools to find, they can profile all of these people, tell if a murderer was a bedwetter, like all of these things, but they can't find somebody that left the fucking murder weapon in the apartment with her. Like, she is so pissed.
yeah. Great acting, by the way.
It was. It
I
was
mean, just watching this show, like Gillian Anderson, I don't think I appreciated it when I was a kid, clearly. But watching it as an adult, it's like, man, she carries so much of this show just on her sheer acting ability.
But she storms out of that office. She's very, very upset about it. And then she immediately goes down to Mulder's basement office, and I think it's to get comfort at that point. And it fucking makes me laugh because Mulder doesn't even like register that she's pissed off or that she's having a moment, and he immediately just starts talking about this wackadoo shit about a French boat that was looking for a recovered or a crashed UFO in the ocean and made its way to San Francisco. And she starts laughing. Like she has
Yeah.
this break moment where she's like, I need time to breathe, but I can't because you're just fucking so. And she starts ragging on him about it, but she uses it to kind of gain some strength
Yeah.
at that
Well, I think
time.
she I
But
think she's going back to like, okay, at least there's a sense of normalcy here. Like this is normal, right? She's so mad because they're closing her sister's case out and she's not going to get justice. But at least she's sort of has that moment of, okay, well, here's what my normal life is. I'm with this guy who's just a wackadoo most of the time, and I'm just going to go right back into it.
yeah, I mean, it was a cute scene, but again, you're right. Her acting carries so much of this stuff. But they find that all of these people that were on this boat, all of these French people, had been exposed to or a bunch of radiation, and they were in a hospital in San Francisco. So they need to go out there and or figure out what's going on. They go out to San Francisco. They get in the hospital. They find that, according to the doctor, who there's this weird scene, and they keep doing it over and over and over again, where some man doctor is mansplaining doctor stuff, and when Scully starts acting or asking questions from or as a medical professional, they all look at her like gaping, like, "Oh my god, you're a
Yeah.
doctor too." They've done this a few times in this show already, and I think they keep doing it. It's just so fucking sexy.
Yeah. I
But
mean, women can't be doctors, Jeremy. It's
I know.
shocking.
But finds out that these guys have been exposed to the amount of radiation that Hiroshima people were exposed to, and they use they talk about it not occurring in nature, and then Mulder uses that opportunity to say on this planet, like
Yeah.
under his breath. Like, okay, all right. Um, but they find out that one of the guys, a fellow named Gautier, had not experienced any radiation at all. This is Gautier was the guy that was in the deep sea diving suit. Um, he says that nothing happened, that he just kind of lost his cool down there, but he checks himself out of the hospital, goes home, and he is clearly not himself. He's acting very suspicious, very quiet. He doesn't seem to be familiar with his own surroundings, and just starts tearing apart like all of the filing cabinets, the two filing cabinets that they're in their house, going through all of this stationery until he finds the address for this salvage company. I think it's really unclear, but his wife shows up. Gautier's wife shows up at the apartment or the house, and she realizes that it's not him or he's acting funny. He grabs a hold of her, and then she is all of a sudden got this black oil washing over her eyes. She's acting all
Yeah.
serious like Gautier was, but Gautier is nowhere to be seen. And she takes off from the house.
If we've learned nothing from space alien media throughout the decades, it's that aliens cannot have any emotions. So, when the black oil jumps over to the next person, they immediately lose all emotions because that's what makes us human. I will point out while you're pondering what I just said there, um, um, there is this funny moment where Scully knows the plane and she like figures out what the plane is down there, and Mulder looks at her and he's like, "I just got turned on." And
Because
Mulder also does some sniffing in this episode too. I'm just saying.
creepy Mulder, but he gets turned on because she used to build models with her brothers. Like, what about that is doing it for you? And also, what red-blooded American boy doesn't recognize what a fucking P-51D Mustang looks like? That was the sweetest plane in World War II. Period.
No,
But
Mulder is
okay,
that man.
yeah, no, he's not. Don't lie to me. He had one hanging from the ceiling when he was a kid. They go out to the boat. They find that it's under some sort of private military. Like, it's not the U.S. military. It's not the French military. It's just some security company. But it looks like it's under military quarantine. while it's investigated for traces of radiation, of which they're finding none on the boat. So you have just these men that have been exposed to Hiroshima, but the boat that they were on, zero traces of it at all.
Yeah.
So they go aboard, and I don't know if you've ever wandered around in a big ship,
Yeah.
but once you get below decks, like it's a maze down there that make, confusing hotels where you have to like navigate to where room 219 is in the most difficult way possible. But it's tight quarters, it's a bunch of 90-degree turns everywhere. Like it's not really clear once you lose sight of the sun where the fuck you're going and where you've been. But Mulder just goes below deck and immediately makes a beeline for the deep diving suit that the guy was in. He uncovers it and notices that it's he finds the suit lubed up with KY jelly.
Yes.
He sees that there's a camera system mounted on the suit, and they need to go find the VCR videotape of that recording to figure out, what were they looking at. They find it, they put it in the VCR. It is really scratchy and stuff. I noticed that. Like, you remember a VCR when you had a fresh
Yeah.
videotape, whether it was a recording or whatever, like those first handful of viewings, it was decent quality. It wasn't
Yeah.
just like what that was. It looked like it had been run through. It was your family's copy of Pete's Dragon that you watched 100 times.
Yeah.
But it looked like shit, but they see, sort of the plane through. They see the fuselage. Scully recognizes it. That's when you get the creepy. With I didn't notice there was sniffing. There was sniffing during
No,
this
no,
scene.
no, no, no. He didn't sniff Scully during that. When he goes to get the KY jelly, he just starts touching it. And then he
Yeah,
sniffs, he puts it right up to his nose and he just starts sniffing it. There's a lot of Mulder sniffing in these episodes we watched. It's just a thing I noticed.
acting. Um. So they see the tail thing and or the tail designation. They see the pinup girl on the side of it and the name of it. So Mulder is going to go track down Gautier. Scully is going to go visit a friend of her dad's on a military base. And so I wrote in that note, or in between, sandwiched in between here is when we have the girlfriend or wife getting possessed by Gautier's black oil. And I wrote
Yeah.
that it's like, I remember this being so cool when it would transfer from one person to another. But as an adult, it just looks so lame. It just
Yeah.
quick wash of black eyes and then nothing is happening.
That
They
girl, by the
totally,
way, was in a
yeah,
previous episode. Because I was like, what? I've seen this girl before. She was actually, do you remember Fallen Angel in season one? Where she's the
yeah.
girl that sees it, and then the military guy's like, "Oh, what you just saw is a flock of birds flying over the lake or whatever." That's that girl.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, she wasn't in uniform, so makes sense. Um, she goes to visit her dad's friend on a military base. I laughed when she goes to check in at the base because they block the gate with this huge hand raised stop sign, and you could tell that somebody in props made it like for this scene, but they didn't counterbalance the sign. So the soldier that grabs the sign and like manually lifts it with his hands was struggling to push the side of it down because there wasn't enough of a counterbalance on it. But I just laughed because there's no military base that has these manual like lifts. They have they don't even have them down most of the time. They just have an armed guard standing at the front thing that you just stop at. But then we just started seeing other shit like she knows where she's going. She's going to visit this guy. She ends up like driving on to a residential base that has a bunch of kids like running around playing hopscotch and shit. She has this pointless reminder of what she was on this base as a kid, like playing hopscotch too. I don't know why they did it outside of really don't know
Yeah,
why they did it. It
I
didn't make
was
any.
I was confused about that as well because I thought that was going to lead towards something, but it didn't feel like it really led to anything at all.
And they go. She goes to visit this old guy who she rattles off the plane's number designation. She rattles off the name, and she's like, the guy doesn't have any idea, and it doesn't even look like he's suspicious about it. He just looks like an old coot who doesn't remember shit about that day or from back in
Yeah.
that day.
He
So
keeps saying, "Oh, my memory's not like it used to be."
she decides to leave, and it cuts back to Mulder. He finds Gautier's house is a mess. Finds the one balled up piece of paper amongst all of these files that are just scattered to the wind that happens to be the one piece of information that he needs to lead him to his next clue. He ends up finding Gautier on the floor covered in dirty afterbirth.
Yep.
And he wakes him up, and he's like, where am I? I was on the floor of the ocean. I was looking at the plane. Where's my wife? Why am I at home? And then he shows him the wadded up piece of paper. He's like, what is this all about? And the dude claims diplomatic immunity.
Yep.
Like, I will not tell you anything. Take me to the consul. All right. Why? And we never see him again.
Nope. He served his purpose. He got oiled.
Mulder goes to the salvage company to talk to a girl that's in there who has this ancient hammer action sawed off shotgun taped to the bottom of her desk. Like, what the fuck was that? That was straight. They were using that, or that particular gun that they're using is one of my favorite guns to use in a video game called Hunt Showdown, which I believe takes place in 1899. It has it's a sawed off. It has the hammers on both of the sides. Like, it was ancient, and it doesn't make any fucking sense that it
Yeah.
was there, but it was cool.
I don't know anything
Um,
about guns, but it reminded me of the scene in Tombstone when Kurt Russell's got that underneath the table when Johnny
yeah,
Ringo and Val Kilmer are going after each other. I'm like, oh, she's gonna go Tombstone on Mulder here.
it was probably the same fucking prop. It was just out of place in 1996.
Yeah.
But she's immediate, or she's evasive. She doesn't want to tell him what's going on. He gets kind of weirded out by the situation. Like, he knows something's up, but he doesn't want to let her know that he's copped to it a little bit. So he sits outside and stakes out the place. He's just staring around this scrapyard or whatever that's full of stuff. And then I wrote that all of a sudden the French yakuza show up, similar to the actual yakuza from a couple episodes ago. Just very well dressed Frenchmen with Uzis.
I made a note here. It was like there are so many foreign, like organized foreign groups just operating in the United States without anyone having any knowledge about it. Now the French are here too.
We get back to Scully. She's making her way off of the base, and she gets stopped at the exit gate and says she's being detained. And she's like, "Oh my god, what did I do? Did I steal something?" Blah 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 blah. The old man pulls up suddenly in the car behind her, waves off the gate guards, and then gets in the car with her and tells her the story about what happened to the original crew of people that went to investigate those planes missing. It was a submarine that had what, 50 guys on it or something like that.
Yeah.
And they went to go, supposedly what the story was that that was the third bomb that was supposed to be dropped on Japan, the third nuke. And they had been lost in the North Pacific, and they were sent to protect in a sub to investigate where it was and protect the area until they could retrieve this broken arrow. Of which, why did they never use that term? Isn't that the term we use when we lose a missile, a nuke?
Yeah. It's a good movie too. John
It is.
Travolta.
Um, And then it goes into this kind of neat black and white scene where they're talking, or where they do a flashback to a medic is treating a bunch of radiation burn guys that weren't really were being burned, but it wasn't really radiation. Um, the medic wants them to surface, but they can't because there's a Japanese destroyer also looking for them.
Now,
But the
I was confused a little bit. Was this supposed to be like, remember a few episodes ago where Mulder was tracking some submarine out in the ocean looking for something, and then like, oh, they showed up at the port in San Diego? Is this stuff all related to that a few episodes ago, or is this its own separate thing? Do you remember that?
where he jumps off the boat into the ocean fully clothed.
Yeah, because remember they're tracking, and Mulder has that thing up. He's like, I've been tracking a submarine going out to whatever. And I was just wondering, I'm like, well, is that the French submarine that was going out there, and they found this sort of broken arrow out there? And is this, I guess, is this connected? Is this the same stuff that was happening a few episodes ago that Mulder happened to say he was sort of looking into?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think the flashback is, because that's still World War II
Oh no, no,
era.
not the flashback. I'm talking about the at the beginning, right? Because there's like the French people in the submarine, and they send the guy out, right? I was talking about all of that stuff, but I don't know. It just popped into my head because they mentioned San Diego a few ago as well as where this sort of ship that they were tracking went to. I could be wrong. Maybe there's no connection.
It- Maybe you're right. I don't know. It's been a few weeks since we watched those episodes, but
Help us
um,
out in the chat. Leave a comment, folks. Does this relate or not?
so the sub, or they're talking about the sub. They're doing this flashback. The medic guy wants, or the I guess the head physician wants to mutiny in order to surface to take care of these guys because all of them are getting sick with these burns, and they end up having a mutiny where they lock the cabin or captain in the room with the sick soldiers, and Michael Bublé is there.
Yeah,
I did like
he's one of the crew members there.
I thought it was just a guy that looked it, and I typed, "Oh my god, it's Michael Bublé!" And then I googled Michael Bublé X Files. I was like, "Yeah, he was in 2 uncredited episodes." Like, no shit, it was the
Yeah,
real guy for no reason.
wild.
What happens next?
Mulder
Uh,
goes to Hong Kong.
yeah,
That's the thing that happens.
and the
Scully,
most racist scene in this episode happened, but we'll get to that. What happened to
well, I
Scully?
love. Well, I love that Scully is trying to figure out where Mulder's at, and Mulder's like, "I'm in the San Francisco International Airport," and she's saying, "Hey, we got to do some shit here," and Mulder's like, "I got to go to Hong Kong. I'll see you later."
She's
It was
like,
just, it's
"Follow
so,
up on your end and keep doing what you're
yeah.
doing, but I've got to go to Hong Kong."
She's like, Hong Kong? He's like, yeah, Hong Kong. Gotta go. I'm going to miss my flight, and just hangs up on her. He does that all the time, where he doesn't explain everything to her when she needs to know, and he'll just hang up on her.
And
Classic
so he
Mulder.
goes, and what is it? There are not only is he tailing the secretary, Gautier's wife is tailing them both.
Yep.
Then we get this awkward scene where Skinner is cornered in a breakfast place where he's just sipping coffee and very enthusiastically reading a menu. And some suits come in and just start sweating him about the Scully's sister investigation. He's just like, they don't, and he doesn't answer to him. He doesn't recognize any of them, but they're all like, people in this town have longer careers when they follow orders and they don't dig too deep into things they shouldn't be looking at. It was just vaguely threatening him for reviewing Scully's sister's case. And then the most racist fucking point in this show we've ever hit. We know they're in Hong Kong because there's Asian people eating rice. Like, that's the opener, is that there's We're just in a random fucking restaurant, and there's all these Asians like bending over their rice bowls. Oh, we must be in Hong Kong now.
Oh gosh, yeah,
And
definitely problematic things back in the '90s. I mean, I don't necessarily think people would film these things this way now, but yeah, it sticks out like a sore thumb when it happens.
um, he sits down with the secretary at her table because she just happens to be eating. He's just like, I know what you got. I know that you're trying to sell the location of this downed UFO to somebody else. You're committing treason. She's like, well, we're in Hong Kong. What are you going to do about it? And he handcuffs himself to her and then
Yeah,
drags her out of the restaurant into a hallway that just happens to be like 20 feet from this salvage company's uh hauling or this the salvage company she's from has a Hong Kong office, and she's gonna let him in, and they open the door, and sitting there sweating in the dark is Krychek.
fucking Weasel Krychek, he's back, son of
And
a
so
bitch.
for some reason Mulder shoves the lady out into the hallway while still cuffed to her, and then shuts the door on the cuff, like the cuff link thing. While he's
Yeah.
inside, she's outside. Krychek starts to immediately escape, and then it cuts back to the girl in the hallway, and there's some dudes out there, and they just without, we don't even get preamble. He just shoots her
Yeah.
immediately. So Mulder is cuffed through a door to a dead woman, and he can't go chasing. And he's going through this whole struggle scene where he's trying to grab the key, get unlocked. These guys apparently are, the French yakuza from the previous scene had tailed them there, and they are after Krychek as well? Question mark.
Everybody's after Krychek. I think they were after her because she's with Krychek. Krychek has, well, everyone thinks he has this little, I don't know, like a little mini drive or something that's got a bunch of information about all that can expose all the alien stuff. Now, was this the thing? Like, because I'm like, is this the same shit that they talked about before? Like, remember the Navajo
Yeah, that's
stuff?
it. It's
So that's
encrypted.
the thing.
They talked
Because
about the encryption. That's it.
okay, because that's the thing that Skinner lost, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody lost it, and now Krychek's got it, and he's somehow able to translate the Navajo stuff and sell these secrets to governments around the world. I thought the whole point was that no one could decode it.
Listen.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
He's not selling it. He's not selling it to anybody.
Oh, here we go.
All he has it. He has it in a lockup
Yeah,
in New York City, and he has the key to it. But he's not in the salvage department's office to sell that lady anything. She's selling the location. That's what she went there for. Was to
yeah.
sell the location of the downed UFO to the Chinese or whatever, whoever's in Hong Kong to meet them. So it doesn't make sense that Krychek is there. Not really, but we just needed to get him somewhere. It's just the
Yeah.
vehicle that we got him there was really weak. But he escapes out a window. Mulder somehow uncuffs himself and gets out the same window just at the last minute before the French dudes that are after them bust in. Gautier's wife shows up and flashes the French men to death. Just this white light seems to be able to emanate from whoever is possessed by this black oil, and it just roasts dudes alive.
Feels like Fallen Angel again. Remember that alien would just shoot off radiation, and remember the scene where they're bringing all those burned soldiers into the
Oh,
hospital and whatnot.
yeah. Okay. No, that makes I didn't even think about that. But was there a bright light involved there, or was it an
Yeah.
electric?
Yeah, remember
Okay.
remember there's like that big white light and they would do that slow motion with the people's faces like ah and then they'd be charred.
Um, so yeah, so they die in that hallway en masse because Gautier's wife is there. Cuts back to Skinner. He goes back to his normal booth at Cafe Harassment. Some dickhead is in the restaurant at the front counter bitching at the only server that's in there about how the payphone doesn't work and that he wants $1.75 refund. And Skinner's like hearing this guy get really, really mad, and he just says, like, hey, come lay off the lady. He turns around, says, and the dude says, suck my dick, amigo, in Spanish, and shoots him point blank with a fucking 45, a 1911, just right in the gut, and then just goes running off.
Yeah.
And I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize that dude at all, especially when he says, suck my dick, amigo, and then leaves. I just thought it was like a random guy shooting Skinner. For
Nope.
some reason, Scully gets a personal call telling her that Skinner has been shot. She wasn't next of kin. Don't know why. Um, we get back to Mulder and Krychek at the airport. Um, Krychek, well, Mulder, it's not quite there yet, but Mulder is like hanging out at a phone booth, and Krychek just happens to walk close enough for Mulder to just spin around, just jack him in the fucking nose with his fist. Pulls a gun on him in a Hong Kong airport and like points it at his dick. Just like shh. And just says, you're gonna give me, you remember that digital tape from like 12 episodes ago? You're gonna give it to me. And lets him go to the bathroom to fix up his bloody nose. Krychek goes into the bathroom. He starts washing up his face. Gautier's wife walks into the bathroom with him, choke slams his ass into the wall, and then takes his place. Like you see the black oil thing, so apparently it moved from Gautier's wife into Krychek. Krychek steps out of the bathroom, and for some reason Mulder says, "You feel any better?" or something like that. Like a new man to be
Yeah.
continued.
Krychek got oiled. All right. At the beginning of this episode, you said that this was a very important episode for you as a kid. So, what are your thoughts rewatching Piper Maru?
I think I don't remember there being from here on out like every episode that involves the aliens and the conspiracy and the UFOs and what they're really doing behind the scenes. They only build upon each other. The episodes that come after this just deepen the mythology, but they don't do like a lost thing where they ask a bunch of questions and the answers are either lackluster or they don't answer them at all. They just keep on building this storyline with the aliens and they answer more and more and they ask more and more involved and interesting questions. So I love shit like this. And every time it happens in the X Files, every single season, they're always like the top tier episodes for me. This was so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was really cool. When I started watching this, I remembered some of it from when I was a kid. I did not realize it was a two-part episode. And so when it got to the end, I was like, "Oh shit." It was one of those things I could not wait to start watching the next one. But yeah, this was one of those things where, everything that's going on in it, if I objectively just step away, I'm like, what is happening here? Does any of this really make sense with what came before? But I don't care because it's done so well. It's just like you said, it's just kind of building upon the mythology. It's like just layers and layers and layers, and it's just sparking my imagination, especially as a kid, where I'm just like, just give me any of this, just shoot it directly into my veins. I don't really care. Like you could do the most batshit wild thing imaginable, and I'm gonna buy it just because it's done so well. So yeah, super super cool episode. Next week we'll talk about the finale to see if they stuck the landing, but just a few um, you know pieces of trivia here. Conception of the episode originated in two visual images series creator Chris Carter had wanted to include in a script since the beginning of the show. The first of these was that of a deep sea diver finding a still living pilot trapped in the wreckage of a World War II era fighter plane, and the second was that of a black and white flashback taking place in a submarine. Director Rob Bowman shared with Carter his experiences diving, feeling that an episode based on finding something creepy underwater would be a good idea. Carter also wanted the episode to feature the reemergence of the MJ documents last seen in the earlier film or paperclip. Okay, so this does kind of relate to what we were watching episodes ago. All right. So Frank Spotnitz began working on the episode immediately after writing the earlier third season episode 731, fleshing out the rest of the concept while on a flight out of Minneapolis. Spotnitz ended up writing his ideas on a magazine, not having brought paper with him, and included in his outline the investigation of Scully's sister's murder and the reintroduction of Alex Krycek. The title of the episode is a reference to the first and middle name of Gillian Anderson's daughter, who had been born during the production of the second season. The name Gautier, used for the French diver and his wife, was a reference to a special effects producer on the show. Now, the episode's cold open was filmed in a water tank using a replica P-51 Mustang plane, which had been designed by the art director. Bowman also needed to direct a scene in which Gillian Anderson would react to a memory of playing with her sister as a child. The scene involved digitally compositing the children playing into Anderson footage. Bowman asked Anderson to act towards a tree as though it were her sister, later telling her, "I'm going to tell everybody I can tell, or anybody that I can, that you just did that great reaction to a tree." Bowman also reshot the episode's ending, as originally Duchovny and Nicholas Lea were to walk past the camera and continue off screen. Feeling this was not effective, he replaced this with a walking shot, which continued straight towards and into the camera, noting that Nick will jump in front of a truck if he thinks it will make the scene better. The on-screen appearance of the black oil were achieved through visual effects, with the shimmering oil effect being digitally placed over the actors' corneas in post-production. The crew went through various iterations to find the two right types of fluids. According to physical effects crewman David Gaudier, they used a mix of oil and acetone, which he believed gave the substance a more globular look. Special effects technician Matt Beck was able to digitally blend the oil effect around the shape of the actors' eyeballs. The man in the plane in the teaser, Robert Meyer, worked as a construction coordinator on the show and felt that his part in the episode fulfilled a lifelong dream of working as a stuntman. Nicholas Lea's name was purposely left until the ending credits to preserve the surprise. Gillian Anderson received her first Emmy nomination for this episode. Kind of interesting. And Piper Maru would also go on to become the name of the icebreaker ship used in Weyland Corporation's retrieval team in Alien vs. Predator as an homage to this episode. And according to the coordinates given in the very beginning, the opening scene takes place about 600 miles north of Hawaii. So there you go. That's part one, Piper Maru. Check back next Friday, folks, because we're going to check out Apocrypha, sorry. And we're going to see, do they stick the landing with this excellent episode? So tell everybody goodbye, Jeremy.
Goodbye, Jeremy. Thanks for listening, everybody.